hello. Last Sunday, on June 13th, 2021, I streamed for 12 hours on my Twitch channel raising money for Hospitality Action. Between 9 AM and 9 PM, I played bits of 12 different games, including Chicory, Hades, and Celeste, even finishing off by writing and recording an a cappella jingle for one of my favourite local shops, Red Cup Cafe. I wanted to put together a post-mortem of the event to kind of just reflect on all of the technical and organizational aspects that went into making this kind of event. I've done it largely for myself, just so I can kind of process the learning curve I've gone on over the past week, and also just to help out anyone else who might be considering this sort of thing for themselves, because I think it's really fun and I would heartily recommend. So I've organized this talk into 5 main parts. We've got the initial idea, software and websites, hardware, planning, admin and self-care, and results and conclusions. So to begin, number 1, the initial idea. Basically, I had a large backlog of games that I wanted to play, but I go through phases of finding it difficult to just give myself permission to just enjoy games. It's hard to just enjoy things in a sense where you're not creating something at the end of it. You're just playing for playing's sake. It would be the equivalent of feeling bad for just reading a book for the joys of reading a book. It's something I go through, and I don't think it's a good thing. But the way I decided to tackle this was to make a good outcome of this, and it felt like a charity stream where I was just playing for a long amount of time seemed like a good way to approach that, and 12 hours seemed like an amount that I could just about hack. So in terms of picking the charity, while I've done a bit of a video previously, which I'll link in the description, myself and my parents, who I'm currently living with, have a good working relationship, have a good eating relationship with a cafe nearby called Red Cup Cafe, who are wonderful, and their owners are ambassadors for a charity called Hospitality Action, who are there to support the hospitality industry at large, who've taken quite a bit of a hit in the past handful of months. 15. So it felt like an obvious thing to some kind of event to support them. I strongly recommend you check out Hospitality Action and general ideas they put together and projects such as Invisible Chips. Strongly recommend you take a look into that. The idea of a charity stream is nothing new. And especially within, say, the speedrunning community, of which I am a fascinated audience member of, there are events such as AGDQ, SGDQ, ESA, Limit Break, all these kind of things where people watch speedrunners, that is, a person playing a game from start to finish as quickly as possible while raising literally millions of dollars or pounds or whatever for charities. That kind of culture inspired the little challenge I gave myself that at the end of my speedrun, which I did to finish off the stream, I donated £1 for every time I died in the last level, which again is heavily influenced by the kind of stuff that AGDQ and SGDQ do in their events. And the other thing, just to kind of solidify the planning, is just that I watched other people's 12-hour streams. So I must particularly point out that the day before mine, I watched Gubby and her stream, and she was doing wonderful things, just small details which really added to the experience of the stream, which I hadn't considered, which I will cover as we come to them. But yeah, so just the idea was just that I wanted to play a bunch of games, wanted some kind of outcome, and decided to tread a well-trodden path, and also could get some inspiration from others. So there we go. Right. Idea number 2, or topic number 2, software and websites. So I'm just going to run through the various different bits of software and websites that I used for this particular project. All of it was free. I did not pay anything for this. There are ways that you can, there are premium services, but I did not need to use any of them. So for the donations, Just Giving seemed like a good idea. Well used, reputable, reliable. There are other people you could go with, but I've never had an issue with Just Giving, so they seemed like an obvious one. The streaming platform I used was Twitch. I have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/jacksaw. From my experience of having tried the vast majority of mainstream live streaming platforms, Twitch is definitely the best, just in terms of user interactions. It's also pitched primarily at gamers, which was my target audience for this kind of thing. And so, you know, the one main thing that's different between Twitch and anyone else is if you're streaming on a computer. And by anyone else, I typically mean like YouTube streaming or Facebook streaming. If you are streaming on a computer, then if you are streaming through, say, YouTube or Facebook, there will be a 15-second delay between what is going on the screen and what the audience actually sees, which means that chat interactions are stilted and pretty rubbish, to be honest with you. And I can't work out how I can disable that. If I can, then great, let me know. Meanwhile, Twitch, having that low latency, pretty much immediate action, reaction, is very much part and parcel of the entire concept. So it's just way more fun in general to stream through Twitch. The streaming software that I used, so Streamlabs OBS, free, incredible software. So quick story of this: OBS is open broadcaster software, and that is an open source bit of software which is for streaming and recording. Streamlabs are a company who basically took OBS and built around it, because OBS was an open and is an open source project. You can do whatever you want with it. So Streamlabs have done that, and they've added various bits of functionality which I think personally are brilliant. And I absolutely, having used OBS in the past, very much like using the Streamlabs version of it. Plus, the Streamlabs OBS is is affectionately known as slobs, and so who wouldn't like working with slobs? Again, like I kind of highlighted, you can use a premium version of this. I think it's called Streamlabs Prime. I personally didn't. I haven't had any need to do that. It's all been free. And the stuff that Streamlabs OBS deals with are like scene changes. So I could have like, you know, a waiting screen and then a hi, it's my entire face. And now the next scene is my face is in a corner and the game is in the rest of the taking up the rest of the screen space. There's just so much flexibility. It's got, you know, it has, you know, the mixing desk for handling all of that kind of stuff. So for audio levels, and it's just littered with loads of functions that I personally haven't really dealt with yet, but I'm sure that the potential is ridiculously wonderful. Of all the random things, I shouldn't point out that to time the event, I had to use an application called Snaz. This probably is easy, but I couldn't work out how to do it without paying money. So this application called Snaz kept on popping up in people's comments. So I just used that, and it worked, and that was fine. But I'm sure there's a better way for me to be able to set up a timer. But, oh well, it needs must, and I didn't really have a lot of time to prep for it. So I had a chatbot. I set up a chatbot in Streamlabs Chatbot. This was inspired by watching Gobby's stream, and in general is just a standard thing that most streamers have, which essentially, amongst other things, allows you to set up chat commands, which are where a audience member will type in something like !donate. Your chat bot will be listening out for these kind of commands, and if it sees !donate, then it will post, hi, this is for justgiving.com/jacksaw, raising money for hospitality action. And, you know, and I, as the streamer, can set what that message is going to be. And that was one of the things that when I watched Gobby's stream the night before, I realized I hadn't done that. So I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning of my stream and got to the learning. And that was actually much easier to sort out than I was expecting, which was great. You do hilariously need to set up another Twitch account just for the bot to use. So out there in the world is Jacksaw_bot, which makes me very happy. And then I guess the last and final piece of the software and websites part is just the games themselves. I bought the majority through Steam. Obviously, this isn't free. Like everything else I've said has been free except for the games themselves. The vast majority through Steam. A couple through the Epic's game store, and a couple through itch.io. Yeah, and for the sake of completeness, I will end up using, spoilers, I'll end up using the Nintendo Switch for one of the games, and so obviously I bought that through the Nintendo store, but that's by the by. Okay, so topic number 3, hardware. You know, standard things, obviously you need a PC or some kind of computer. keyboard, mouse, controller. I would recommend having 2 monitors just so you have, the screen which you are watching and then another screen which can show you, stream details and what the audience is saying and stuff like that. It's been a really good setup. Obviously, you can probably do that with 1 monitor, but I'd strongly recommend having 2. Again, this list is pretty much just standard stuff for anyone who's interested in doing streaming in general, but a wired internet connection is very strongly advised for relatively obvious reasons. A microphone, so I'm using an EV RE20, which I found cheap at reverb.com, which I strongly recommend anyone check out for their music and microphone needs. A way of connecting the microphone to the computer, so that could be through a USB audio interface, or just an audio interface, or through a XLR to USB adapter, or just even having a microphone which is USB connected, like a Blue Snowball or something like that. Yeah, just very useful. I use a Steinberg UR44 USB interface, which has an additional thing called loopback, which makes capturing the audio of your computer and sending it through things like OBS to be streamed onto Twitch way, way easier. So I strongly recommend looking into that. And the final necessity and the final brilliant thing to have is a good chair. My back had been hurting a couple of days before the event, and I was chatting about that, and the conversation about gamer chairs came up, and just chairs with good lumbar support, with good back support, with good neck support, etc., came up. And so I just got one. I mean, I just ordered it, like, this is just going to be useful. And my goodness, what an investment. Like, this was the one I'm using was about, it doesn't matter, it's secondhand and it works perfectly. And honestly, I think a lot of my comfort from the stream was about this chair, and so I'm very grateful. So thank you, chair. A couple of other nice to haves to change scenes quickly. Lots of people use what's called a Streamdeck, so they look like, and I can't do angles for whatever reason. Hello. Yep, a Streamdeck where you can just set which scene you want. So that could be your beginning of the stream, that could be your main face cam, that could be my faces in the corner and the game's this primary thing, that could be going on a break, and that could be the final thank you screen, whatever. And just having something like that is useful, but you don't need that, honestly. You could just hotkey it to your keyboard, just use the number pad or whatever like that. It's just a nice to have rather than a necessity. And then the final optional thing is a backup console, because as I've talked about in the previous section, one of my games did not run on my computer, and that was hilarious. But luckily, I have a copy of that same game on my Nintendo Switch, and I also had bought a capture card, so I could actually just stream my Switch through my computer, through OBS, through Twitch, to my audience, to their eyeballs. So luckily, that all worked out okay. But yeah, having a backup of some variety is a good idea. But what that is depends, so much on the game and your situation and anything like that. All right, and that pretty much wraps it up for that. So, section 4 is planning, admin, and self-care. I think this was the thing that I took the most time over, just in terms of making sure that I would be okay for doing the stream, that I would be okay in terms of stamina and support and, planning or whatever like that. But other people just go into it blasé, and that's totally fine. It works for some people. It just doesn't particularly work for me. So, main thing I did was to schedule which games I would be playing, and one of the things I definitely paid a lot of attention to was the overall flow of how tired I figured I would be, so I could start off the stream with relatively, high impact, high action, stressful games, whatever. So I started off with playing Overcooked with my dad, who did a brilliant job, it must be said. And that was a very tiring game, and so to have that at the beginning was fine because I had all the adrenaline, blah, blah, blah. And then to kind of have this gradually getting, how do graphs work? Having gradual less and less, momentum. And I planned to, and I did, pick a game which had voice acting called I Am Dead to be my lunchtime game, because the majority of the games I was playing were indie titles, which typically would just have text and no voice acting. And so I was doing a lot of talking, which isn't conducive to eating lunch. And so I decided that during the lunch break, if I had something where the talking was taken care of, such as I Am Dead, then that would be a very good idea. And I think it was. So that was lovely. And then I also knew that I wanted to finish off with Celeste and Hades, both of which are incredibly demanding games, and I knew that'd be exhausting. So luckily, Chicory was just released a couple of days prior to the stream, and I knew in advance that this was just going to be the most beautifully soothing balm of a gaming experience. So I put that specifically before those two games, so I could give myself permission to just flag and just be exhausted, because this would be a game that could support and uplift me, and also it wasn't too didn't require too much of my energy, which was a good, lovely thing. And because of that, the flow of the whole thing worked out really, really well. Like, it was so great. But I'll talk about that a bit later in the results and conclusions bit. Food is hugely, hugely important here. I am so lucky and privileged to be currently living with my parents, who have just been so supportive of the entire project, and so sorted out lunch ready for me at 1 o'clock. You know, we discussed it beforehand, but like, you know, they were ready to sort out that, and like, you know, coffee and whatever, snack later on in the afternoon. And so for anyone who is doing this kind of thing, I would strongly recommend organizing food. If you've got housemates or whatever, then ask them if they can provide, you know, ask them very nicely, you know, do chores, favors or whatever. If you're living on your own, I'd strongly recommend ordering a takeaway so that you don't have to think about that. Just to kind of plan out your sustenance throughout it. So that's just one thing you don't really have to think about. Yeah, that was really, really useful. And then the other thing I guess I should mention is just in terms of the social media side of things, just to kind of keep momentum and keep marketing and advertising and all that good stuff, I did write all the social media posts the night before for Twitter and for Instagram. And then when I was taking a break between games, I would just post those things. If it was a strictly timed event, sure, you could use timed tweets and whatever, timed posts. But because I knew that the timings would be rough estimates, it wasn't the best plan. So just having them ready to copy and paste, or, you know, yes, that was a different... Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked because I had initially actually written them all out, especially the tweets, and then I copied and pasted and saved all of them actually as text files. And then I just must have clicked something, because the next morning all of the tweets had gone. So whereas I thought I'd just made them, they just disappeared. But luckily I had copied and pasted them, so I was saved from my own deletion, which was very weird. Anyway, whatever. So in general, for me, the planning, admin, self-care was all about making sure that I had food, a good sense of schedule, which would match up to my own understanding of how I work and how tired I get and whatever. And yeah, and just to make sure that any bits like social media, you just don't have to think about. It's just a copy and paste thing. I think it's just about minimizing the amount of active thought during the event is a useful thing. So we get on to our final section. Bam! 5 results and conclusions. So I am delighted by this event. I am so happy with it. It was really great fun, and was really christened? Was really just like gilded? I don't know. It was topped off by the fact that in the last 2 hours, Gubby, the aforementioned streamer, showed up to watch. My friend Byron showed up to watch. Red Cup Cafe came to watch. And my parents were watching as well. And even just having a few people being incredibly supportive was wonderful. I am a very small streamer. I have like 23 followers, and so throughout the day I had like maybe a maximum of 5 people watching at any one point in time. You know, and I mentally was preparing for there to be long stretches of no one watching, because I am relatively irrelevant in these kind of circles, and that's completely fine for where I am right now. But yeah, just having a core group of people to really send off the night was great. And then I finished 20 minutes early, so it was like, cool, I had this rough idea that I was going to do this if I met my donations, but let's just do it anyway. I'm going to go and improvise a jingle for Red Cup Cafe, who are there in the chat right now and are super lovely and cooked my lunch, for example. And and that was just lovely, because I just like, okay, guys in the chat, what should the lyrics be? Okay, I'll put, and we just kind of built this thing, and I thought it was a really special and magical moment, which I greatly enjoyed. Yeah, I think I was expecting low audience numbers, and that's what there was. So I'm not disappointed by that, because I knew that was going to be the case. Again, I haven't quite hit the donation mark, but I think £200 is really ambitious. So I will be leaving the donations open until Sunday, which I believe is Sunday the 20th. So I'm still going to be pushing to see if anyone would still care to support. And if you're watching this and are interested, please do consider donating or, promoting this, because I think Hospitality Action are a brilliant cause. So I'm very happy to be raising money for them. But yeah, regardless, I'm at 80% of my donation at the time of recording. Sorry, I'm at, I think, 160 quid, which is incredible, which is so good. So really happy, really enjoyed it. Yeah, so, and would I do it again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. I was knackered the next day, but not as knackered as I thought I'd be. And it was really great. And there are many more games that I have to put time into. So yeah, that's basically it. If anyone has any questions or any things that they'd like me to kind of go over or touch more, then do let me know, because it was a huge learning curve putting all this stuff together. Really amazing stuff. And I'm sure I've missed out lots and lots. But the point being is that it was a massive learning experience. It gave me an opportunity to play games and to try and just to give myself a goal with it. Obviously, the actual point should be that I should be fine for just playing games, because that's also totally fine, but that's a different story. Yeah, and so I hope you have a most wonderful day. Do please consider donating to this whatever this is, at justgiving.com/jacksaw. And yeah, let me know what you think, and I hope you have yourselves a most wonderful day. Okay, take care. 1, 2, 3. We're at the Red Cup Cafe. The Red Cup Cafe. Rena Hannah too. And the Red Cup Cafe. A beautiful Red Cup Cafe. And some invisible chain. Hell there too. 'Cause it's the Red Cup Cafe.